dreaming.
Look, we wanted them to stay humble, but holy shit, this is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Get in. We're live and we're free for everyone. Look, I hope the patrons will understand, but I thought on an occasion like today, let's have everybody together to celebrate all together. Obviously, Clive's drunk joy at halftime and full-time from the Emirates is incoming. I'm going to throw to that now. Thank you, Clive. He was even drunker and happier than I expected. It was fantastic. For those of you watching saying, where was Clive? He goes into the recording after. So look, if you're watching this free and you've ever thought of supporting us, it's $2.50 the first month if you use that promo code thing we've got. If not, just happy you're here, happy you're part of this celebration. Clive will be on the recorded version, and I just am so thrilled that we can say thank you for staying so humble, Manchester City. Revenge is sweet. 5-1 Arsenal over Manchester City. Paul? How you feeling, buddy?
Woohoo! Feeling pretty good. By the way, I think you might have an audio problem. Your mic blanked when you said fuck.
My bad. Okay, I'll fix the mic so that all the F-bombs, the C-bombs, all of them get in. I don't know. We're going out free to everybody, so I don't know what's approved and what's not approved right now. Normally,
sorry,
this is just for the paying customers. Look, the cool thing about doing it this way is there's nothing bad to say. There's only good to say. Normally, our format is headline, stock rising, stock falling. There will obviously be no stock falling today. We're going to skip the format. What we're going to do headlines. We're each going to pick a stock rising, a player that we think deserves that extra special coverage. Then we're going to touch on each and every one of the heroic, excellent, wonderful Arsenal players that was out on the pitch today. And let me just say this. I understand why people care about transfers. I care about transfers. We need transfers. You can't put the same 11 out every week. You can't expect consistent performances like this every week. But it's a reminder of the quality that's in this squad, the fight and togetherness that's in this squad, the future that is in this squad. And with all of the negativity that swirls when transfers don't get done, what an amazing time for the club to remind us that we can pull together and deliver amazing things with the people we have today. So, Paul, I'll let you give your headline from Arsenal 5, Manchester City, the lone 1.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going with Hayland Downs, Manchester City. I don't know that that's factually or historically correct, but winners write the history, and that's how it feels, right? If you look by the phases of the game and where there was a bit more to it than Hayland's Downs City. But what matters is the narrative the club comes away with, and the feeling around the club, and that energy around the club, and it feels like, looking back from how it ended, Hayland Downs City. We were very tentative at times in this game, a little bit sloppy. But when the game came to life, we absolutely put them to the sword. And our boys, Miles Lewis, there didn't seem enough time for Ethan to have an impact on the game. It was like a token sub, bring him on, maybe he runs to the corners and runs it out. Ethan had other ideas. And they just left what do you come away with as an image of this game? It was like the Saka Smith Rowe games where they took us to a level we weren't expecting, and this buzz around the club, and now it's Nwaneri and MLS. And the feel-goods around this, man, what I wouldn't do to be in North London celebrating this particular game afterwards. The vibe just off the charts.
Yeah, unbelievable vibes. And you're right. I mean, the Hayland moment, so special. If you had asked me how to draw this up, I don't think I could have said Ethan with a Galazzo curler from the edge of the box as the final whistle blows to make it 5-1. I don't think I could have picked that. I don't think I could have predicted that. So I have to give you a headline. And I thought about this a lot, but I'm just going to say sweet, sweet, sweet revenge. This is sweet revenge. It is revenge on Michael Oliver, who wanted Miles Lewis-Skelly to take no part. And, you know, Michael Oliver came in for a lot of criticism this week. I'm going to defend him. I'm going to do the unthinkable, defend Michael Oliver. He may be smarter than any of us. He may be smarter than any of us because he knew Miles Lewis-Skelly was a threat to City. He knew it. He was so scared that Skelly would take down his paymasters that he tried to keep him out of the game. Kudos to you, Oliver, for rating Skelly even more than we did as a fan base. But in the end, and thank you, Aaron, for the chat, even more than we did. In the end, Miles Lewis-Skelly proved him right. He proved him right by being one of the men of the match. Sweet revenge on him. Sweet revenge on Erling Haaland, who at one point thought, oh, as he trudged over to the corner flag to show I'm the big man. He did get his goal, credit to him, but he has to stay humble. As Miles Lewis-Skelly, an 18-year-old defender, strides into the box, curls one into the corner, and gives the trademark Erling Haaland celebration. Imagine having that much ice in your veins. Imagine having that much hubris and confidence at 18 to not only play this game, to body City players, to stride through the midfield, shrugging off Erling Haaland, but to step into the box and score that goal and then know to do the Haaland celebration, not to lose your mind, just to give it back to Erling Haaland. It is sweet revenge. And it's sweet revenge, I think, for some of the players, for the manager, and for us as a club who are not getting the credit for, despite the Reds and despite the injuries, being third in the Champions League, being second in the Premier League, the only club daring even try to contest this with Liverpool, despite our best players being gone for months, despite the red cards. Sweet revenge for us as a club to say, hey, give us a little credit. We're the ones doing some pretty interesting things despite these challenges we face. So, Paul, I'm on cloud 9 today. It is sweet, sweet, sweet revenge against the people that have taken this club, these players too lightly, and I'm thrilled for all of them.
Yeah, all that talk about it not being personal, it's personal. It's these players. I mean, the Buddha moment with Miles Lewis-Skelly, the brass balls on that player, right? And this is a rivalry this league needs, right? It may not be a rivalry in 10 or 15 years when these managers are doing other things, but right now, this grudge, there would be something wrong if these guys weren't, like, they've been 1 and 2 the last couple of seasons. They hate each other. Just the glorious moments. We've kind of missed a game with lots of glorious moments that you can't get enough coverage of, that you want to go back to. And this is the game that delivered. What blew me away with the Miles Lewis-Skelly thing was I already had him out. Like I tweeted just before that. It's not a great tweet, but it kind of pins a moment in this game where I went with, my word, Miles Lewis-Skelly, you belong. Then, just after I tweet that, not that I was trying to predict anything, he picks up the ball in midfield, dances through their defense, decides who better than me at this point to put this ball in the back of the net, with his right foot, curls it on target into the net. The guy just grew into this. He loved it. And then to have the balls to do the Buddha thing. This is, and the way the team gather around him and egg him on, just what a grudge match. What a win. 5-1. Phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. We'll get into the headlines and the individual moments of it. The music ringing around at the end of full time, the way these players felt. And look, it has been a difficult season, despite, Paul, the fact that we are in second, the fact that we're through to the Champions League round of 16, finishing third in that table. It's been a tough season. We lost Odegaard for a while, and he's come back struggling for form. We've lost Saka for a big chunk of the season. We've faced really upsetting refereeing decisions that have cost us points. We've lost players in games like the Liverpool game where Martinelli didn't get the penalty he deserved, where Kai Havertz's late goal was ruled out, where we lost Gabriel mid-game. Like, some of the things that have happened this season have been hard. And you saw Havertz at full time, was it the Wolves game where he collapsed on the ground? They're giving everything. And despite doing a lot of really interesting things this season, I just think the general vibe has been it's not good enough. This is a chance for them to feel like it is good enough. And to get celebrated. And the media, whatever they normally want to say about Arsenal, they're going to have to swallow that acid in their mouth and give us our flowers. And tomorrow on Monday Night Football, I can't wait for them through gritted teeth. They're going to try to make it all about the decline of City. City have bought new players. They've tried to show ambition in the market. We showed ambition on the pitch, and they're going to have to praise us for it, you know?
Yeah, look, we're still spluttering just a little bit. And you think, coming out of this game, given who we just downed, given the positioning we have against this team, we're not afraid of these guys anymore. And this is something you build on, because we saw as the game went on, we just needed a little bit more confidence, a little more wind in our hair to start, for the players to make the move, to get close enough together that we could start opening them up to move it around. So we were a little bit tentative. I think getting the goal first puts you in that do we, don't we, how hard do we push kind of thing. It was a bit cagey, but like coming back with the goal immediately to get a 2-1, and then the confidence starts to flow in the team. We start putting it together. I think we come out of this with a heck of a lot of momentum going forward, which is exactly, if we're going to go on the kind of run we need to narrow the gap. I don't know if we can catch Liverpool, but to catch Liverpool, we need to win game after game after game. And to come out of this with this confidence, wind in our hair, and go for it, so that we get from tentative to sticking it to them, getting the goals early, getting the confidence, getting on the roll. This could be a huge, huge multiplier of the game.
Yeah, and again, for those of you who are watching this for free on the live stream, Clive's thoughts will get added in the recording. And so for those of you who are patrons, you know that. You'll have that out right at full time. I do hope the patrons are okay with me making this free for everyone. I just felt what a time for us all to get together. By the way, if you've never signed up, we'd love to have you. And we do like a ton of extra stuff every week, the countdown, power ranking, scouting reports. We have a new tactics video breakdown. So this week, Clive and I will be doing a video breakdown of the best moments of this game, tactic for tactic. Well, Clive will be doing it. I'll just be standing next to him on the screen. And that's one where you can weigh in and you can get involved. So we'd love to have you. There's code AVP and you can get it for $2.50 for the first month and try it out. Again, I don't want to go too much on that. Today's about the game, but if you'd like to be there, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, just like and subscribe for this video on YouTube. And for patrons hearing that, saying, that's not what we usually get here. Day of celebration, so bear with me. Okay, we're going to do our stocks rising section. So again, what I said, Paul, we're not going to do stock rising, stock falling. There's obviously no stocks falling today that we're going to do. What I want to do is we each pick one stock rising that we want to make the headline of our stocks rising section, and then we will go through the whole squad, but we're going to do it rapid fire. Does that sound good to you?
Yes.
And I do just want to say it shows me on the screen anyway, about 8,100 people watching between platforms where we're streaming. So thanks so much for being here. And I hope you're as happy and upbeat and excited as I am. And boy, oh boy, is the signing announcement tomorrow going to be that much better. Okay. So what do you want to do with your stock rising? And again, we're going to go through the whole team, but who do you want as your stock rising that you want to highlight?
It's tough to pick one because I want to pick 3, 4. I'm going to go with Miles Lewis-Skelly. How can you not go with him? Yeah. He so belongs. He belonged before the goal. And the goal was maybe the second movement where he'd like gone into midfield, taken the ball. There's one where he picks it up deep in the back line and says, why not? Steps forward, rides tackles into midfield, distributes it out to the right wing, and starts off a really key attacking moment that we didn't take advantage of. And then this moment, maybe that was kind of a builder for him. Then there's this moment where he's on the edge of the box and it's like, why not me? He takes the ball, turns, rides a tackle, now in a position where, why not me? Why don't I go for it? And his defensive work, okay, it's Nunez on his side, but he totally had Nunez where he wanted him. Like, what are you going to do as City? You're going to attack the side. You're not going to go down the Timber side. You're going to go down the Lewis-Skelly side. And so you'd see Silva getting out that side, trying to double up, put the pressure on, or whoever, Foden out that side. The guy's got such poise. I think Arteta went for his best 2 1v1 fullbacks that were available to him. He could have played Calafiori, obviously. Even if he didn't think he was 90 minutes worth, he could have started Calafiori for 70 minutes. This absolutely critical game, probably the game Arteta cares most about in the season. He says, okay, well, we need security and then technical security on the ball and a guy who can do my inverted fullback thing at will. Miles Lewis-Skelly. The guy has totally arrived. He's 18 and he's got the poise and mentality. The way he even kind of manages Haaland's physicality in the box. There's the cross that comes in where it's like the commentary is, oh, Haaland's all over MLS. But MLS is kind of rotating, managing Haaland on his back, stays on his feet, guides the ball out of play. Every situation he managed. He took the sting out of every situation. He gave us control as Timber does on the other side. And I just think it's a phenomenal performance that makes you ask, well, isn't he our best left back at the club? He's certainly in the frame now to just be the straight up starter.
Can I stop you for a second too? Can we give Mikel maybe a little credit in the sense that it's a big decision? Calafiori was a big summer signing. He's had big moments. He's scored. And, you know, Mikel's a little superstitious. All managers are. Calafiori scored the goal that should have won it for us at the Etihad. So there's previous there. There's priors there. MLS is coming off an emotional sending off situation. So it's a big decision. And Mikel has at times, I think, unfairly been accused of not trusting youth. I think he's blown that out of the water. But, Paul, it's a big decision. It's a big decision point. He goes with Miles Lewis-Skelly in a critical game, in a game where he would have otherwise been banned had we not had it overturned, and he is absolutely rewarded. And the reward he gets is not just this MLS performance, but what could come from this MLS performance as MLS just goes from strength to strength now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, credit to Arteta. He's always said when the player's at the level, when he's talking about young players, but the converse of that is if he doesn't think the player's quite at the level, they're not starting for him. It's not the Wenger era where Wenger will invest in the player because he thinks he needs to, because in a season or two, he'll have the player he wants from. Arteta has a line, and when you are at that line, you can play, you can start. And testament to Miles Lewis-Skelly, when Arteta said, who's my best left back for this game? Who's my safest, most secure, best 1v1? He was very clear what his answer was, Miles Lewis-Skelly. Phenomenal. If that's one thing to get on the team sheet, to totally deliver, to be left on the pitch effectively for 90 minutes to see out the game, and to be a dominant factor in why we won this game, defensively and attack-wise, absolutely phenomenal.
So, all right, I think I might frustrate people with my stock rising. Again, we're going to talk about every player. Okay, we're going to talk about every player. I'm going to pick a stock rising that there are a couple others that maybe you could argue deserve it ahead of him. But again, we're going to get to talk about everybody. So I'm going to go with maybe an unheralded one here, and that's David Raya.
Yep.
At the point where we hadn't really gotten our hands around this game and started to squeeze their necks, it was a bit back and forth. There were moments. And he makes some saves without which I don't think we go on to have this special day. So first of all, the one from the Gvardiol header that he puts onto the bar is sensational. I don't think he got enough credit for the one that's deflected that he gets down low to. There's also a Gvardiol, that's such a weird name to say, Gvardiol volleyed cross, first time volleyed cross that he gets a little hand to. And I think if you watch the reverse angle, maybe it was Gundogan coming around the far post who might get onto it, but instead it deflects just that slight bit beyond him. I think games like this have moments that you forget in the aftermath, right? When it's 5-1 and it's all roses and sunshine. But there are moments that could have turned that game in another direction. And I think if we don't get this David Raya performance, and, you know, I think what we saw in midweek against Girona too is just, we ask him to get his foot on the ball a lot, right? We ask him to be a part of what we do. So he's an outfield player for us. He's that always present release valve for the defenders if they're being pressed. We saw a City team that didn't have a similar level of comfort back there playing out. We were able to play out, and he made some saves that help us go on and make this a big win. And by the way, Eric, thank you for the chat, and a big hi to those Gunners, the Bruce City Gunners, Matt Summer, Eric Bolden out there in Milwaukee, and so many people around the world celebrating together. So what do you think of that, Paul, the Raya stock rising and those moments that could have turned the game one direction, but turned it another?
Yeah, I think all the other players kind of had their stock rising-ish, but they had moments where you're like, My two clear stock risings were Lewis-Skelly and Raya. I think for all you nailed all the points, all the things I would have brought out. I think the chill and poise he has on the ball at the back, so that in times of pressure, he knew when to slow the game down. He knew when to invite on a little pressure, to play out through them, using the players dropping into the back line, passing through them. I think he mixed it up really well. Thought he had a perfect feel for the energy of this game. And the confidence that flows from the back with him with our two centre backs, with our two full backs. But starting with him, I think we now see a player who's at the peak of his powers and at the peak of his confidence, and the whole rationale for what you want as a goalkeeper in an Arteta team. I think it's been brilliant recruiting, although I had some concerns at first about why we're making that move then. It's brilliant recruiting. It's a brilliant piece. And Arteta has always kind of built from the back in terms of building his team and building the presence and building the philosophy. So I think phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and spot on as the other stock rising here.
Yeah, there were a lot of shouts for a few other players. I know Partey was a huge shout for one as well, but we're going to get to him because now, Paul, it is my pleasure for us to be able to go player by player by player. Now, let's not do 10 minutes on each, but let's go player by player. And I think we'll just go back to front since we already did Raya. Let's go with Timber. And all I can say is this is a player whose level is incredibly consistent. There are tiny little things in his game in the attacking third where I'd say, oh, could he do this? Could he do that? But it's nitpicking. We haven't had a player like this in a while, I think, who is incredibly reliable and become unheralded in his reliability, much in the way maybe Ben White kind of did. But I want you to think about it. If Timber wasn't fit and at this level, coming off an ACL injury, where would we be right now in the absence of Ben White? He's been fantastic.
He's an incredible 1v1 player who exudes confidence in that moment against the winger that says, you're not going to get any change out of me. You're going to have to switch the ball inside. There's really no point. And in some ways, the amazing thing is he was a non-story in this game. He's just completely got his side locked up, handles everything, plays out at the back with such chill. There's nothing to worry about on the right fullback side. We got that all covered. We just got to worry about our left fullback side. But we don't have to worry about it because you got Miles Lewis-Skelly there. The confidence across that back line, and Timber's just a huge part of it. And he'll very often be part of the three at the back. You're never worried when the ball's at his feet and he's under pressure. He can body the guy, he can ride a tackle, he can spin, turn, or just roll it back to the keeper at the right moment. I thought he was phenomenal.
He was. Okay, so yeah, I love him. I think he's fantastic. And I mean, there's not much more to say about that. Big Gabby. I thought this was a great Big Gabby game, and you know the emotion. Look, one of the highlight moments of this game, now that we've won it, is him getting in the face of Erling Haaland after we scored our first goal. Could have looked quite bad after the equalizer, but in the end, winds up looking quite good. I think Gabby did a really good job, by the way, because you could tell he was fired up, but he did not play reckless or out of control. We see players all the time who play on the wrong side of fired up and out of control, who get reputations for being hard men. Cutie Romero, Lissandro Martinez, right? Bruno Guimaraes, who are fired up, but in being fired up, play on the wrong side of composed. And Gabby was high quality and the right level of emotion, not overly emotional, you know?
When you think of the 1v1 rivalries in this game, the first one you think of is Haaland versus our boy Gabriel. Well, maybe from now on we'll be thinking about Lewis-Skelly versus Havertz, but Haaland. But like the rivalry between those two guys, they come into this. One of the funny moments was there's the moment where Gabriel loses his boot and he's tugging on the shorts of Haaland and says, "Go get me my boot." And Haaland kind of misinterprets it as it's almost camaraderie and reaches down to offer him the hand, and Gabriel's like having none of that. But there's a turning moment in Haaland where for the first time, instead of wiping you off his shoe like you're some dog gick he picked up on the road, he's like, there is a grudging acceptance that he has met his match, that's a real full-on. Normally he wants to be dismissive, boast, but that was a moment in which it was like, okay, you got me. You're my equal. You matched me today. Today you got me. And like the way I thought Gabriel was the guy who dominated against Haaland. Saliba we'll talk about. I think overall at the same level, apart from one moment. Gabriel Haaland never got the better of it. Never.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks for the chat, Cappy Bearass, and thank you for a very funny name. He mentioned that he thought the ref was good and let us play our game. I'll actually say to that point, we didn't say this in the Timber section, but kudos to Timber, who was on a yellow relatively early and just never let it become an issue in his game because he's smart. Part of playing on a yellow isn't, stop playing. Just play smart. If there's a 50-50 ball that you maybe can't get to, you're going to have to make decisions. And I thought he managed it really well. Being on a yellow all that game never really showed up as an issue. So
I didn't actually think the ref was great. I thought he made a lot of crappy small calls, but at least they were small calls. There's some glaring fucking fouls he didn't give, but who cares? Yeah. He wasn't an issue. It wasn't an issue. We move on.
Didn't prevent us from playing our game like other refs have this season. So we'll go to Saliba. On Saliba, I will simply say this. He does obviously a bad job on the Haaland goal, and he'll regret that. But the thing I love about Saliba is he plays with a smile on his face and an ease in his game where it doesn't feel like things affect him. You can see defenders whose head goes. They have head loss after they make a mistake, or their confidence goes and they can't pass it anymore. We've had players like that at the back who, when they make one mistake, the game falls apart. He had one ball played to him in the second half where he was under pressure and he just turns inside and carries it away. He stays cool. He stays calm, and he's just an excellent player. Although fair to say, not a good job on the Haaland goal.
Yeah. A little brain fart moment. You can see him just before it. He's pointing upfield. He's concerned about who's in front of him up there. And in some ways, I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a measure of the fact that our center backs kind of have a level with Haaland in this game, where they feel they've got him, they've managed him, and they have. They manage him before that moment, they manage him after that moment. He really doesn't get the better of them. But Saliba feels they got the measure of them so well that he's actually worried about other things. And in that moment, he's like, he doesn't actually have enough respect for Haaland in that moment, and he gets done.
I want to say thanks to the 13,380 of you watching across all platforms. Thanks for that. If you want to like and subscribe, you can. If you want to sign up for Patreon, use code AVP. You'll get half off your first month. For those of you who are patrons, we love you. And the Clive section will be in your recording that you'll be getting. Thanks to Mr. Bubblex for the chat. Thanks, Tanashi, for the chat. Another top Trossard performance tonight. I agree, and we will certainly come on to that in a moment. We are going player by player in this moment. And the next player that we're going to come to, MLS, we already gave him one of our Man of the Match awards. We gave out basically 2 of those with our stocks rising. Not much more to say about MLS other than maybe there's a future where he's in midfield as well and becomes an option for that. I think he's showing he has so much talent that Mikel might start to feel he can trust him in other positions as well. So we'll move on from...
And can I say on that, while I agree with you, we've had this conversation before, but part of the rationale for why you'd move him to midfield was because, does he really have a chance to be our left fullback? And I think he's shown he's a player you want in your team. He's either going to be your left back, or you look at opportunities to get him into midfield. But he's certainly showing he has a future at left back if that's the choice for him. He can do both.
Yeah.
He's certainly proved he could nail down starter left back.
Hey, Paul, did you notice something?
No.
We just beat Manchester City 5-1. 5-1. Odegaard in the second, Partey in the 56th, Lewis-Skelly in the 62nd, Havertz in the 76th, and Ethan Nwaneri 90+3. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. Arsenal
it's glorious.
5.
It's
glorious. And you know what? This is what happens when they don't send Leo off for kicking the effing ball away like they did at the Etihad. Because I'll tell you what, this should be a double over City, just like we did the double over Tottenham, and just like we should do the double over Liverpool, but didn't beat them because of issues that we faced in the game. But at the end of the day, we have shown that our quality is such that we can deliver big performances when we put a good, solid, fit team out there. And oh, by the way, Newcastle midweek, you don't want to rule that out. But what I will say is, coming off of that, we go to Dubai. We start to get rested. We start to get fit. Maybe you get a Saka back. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe we even announce a signing tomorrow. But I have to say, there was a little fear in me. We'll get to the player by player in a second, but I just got to say this. There was a little fear in me, Paul, that if this didn't go well, and we don't get a signing over the line, the combination of those two things could take the mood to a really tricky place. Liverpool, by the way, yes, they beat Bournemouth, but they beat Bournemouth with the softest of soft penalties, with Bournemouth missing a sitter, with, I think it was McAllister not getting sent off for a second yellow that I think was pretty clear. And just combine that with this not going well and not getting a signing, it could have been a sliding doors moment. But the players, they shut all that out. They are better than City, and they went out and they proved it. And a big part of that is the next player we'll come to, and that's Thomas Partey. And it's just this simple. This is a 5-star Thomas Partey game. And the goal he gets is a bit fortunate from the deflection, but he makes his fortune by intercepting Phil Foden. And I love that it comes from a Phil Foden error, by the way. But yeah, he was really, really good across the board.
Yeah, look, you get deflected shots when you take a good shot at a dangerous area of the goal. He leathers it. He asks the question, and he gets his deflection. I think beside that moment, this is clearly one of his best games for us this season. I think he bossed the midfield. He's not at his absolute peak physically that we've seen with him, but he's pretty good. He maybe doesn't have all of the athleticism, but he's strong. He's both ways. He's defensive. He's getting back. He's running with players. And, you know, they kept, what's-his-face, Marmoush, really quiet. And that was a big job for Partey to make sure that he never became a factor in this game. So he was a both-ways player, totally switched on, and a big reason, I think, our midfield, while we're dominating it, he was a big piece of why I think our presence meant we were a danger going forward. Big game from him.
Yeah, and by the way, did you see, I know the game was already won, but towards the very, very end there, he had one where he collected it and he's under pressure and he's like, I'm just going to knock it over here, like 3 yards forward, and slalomed around the guy. I think one of the things that's been tough about evaluating Thomas Partey, let's be honest, when he has played right back, that has not always been our best outcome as a team, regardless of what you think of his performances. It just hasn't been ideal. And he's had to do it quite a lot this season and quite a lot more than we would have liked. When he's been in midfield and we've had proper fullbacks and our regular setup, then yeah, I think he's looked pretty good. Let's stride forward into the midfield. We're going player by player, by the way. We did our stocks rising where we each picked one to highlight. Paul had first shot. He picked Miles Lewis-Skelly. I went a little off the board and I picked David Raya. Again, if you're just joining us. So apologies for people listening to the recording. That's going to be pretty evident from having listened. And again, thanks to the 14,300 of you watching across different platforms. We're happy to have you here. And so happy. Look, I want to just say this to anybody who signs up on the Patreon. We keep all of this stuff where it belongs because we really thank you for doing that. I hope you'll understand that on a celebratory day like this, we just wanted everybody to come together and celebrate. So, Paul, let's go to Martin Odegaard. And it's an interesting Odegaard game. He gets a goal early on. I think he was doing some really important things, dropping deeper. What we would do is Partey would get the ball, and then Miles Lewis-Skelly would go up the pitch, and Odegaard would drop deep, and they'd kind of help with the collective build-up from deep. I thought he was good building up from the back. I don't think we saw a ton of his best final third work, which is maybe the situation he's in right now. But what he does for build-up is really important.
Yeah, he's not flowing yet. Of course, he's a big piece of our press, and our press was a big piece of how we put them under pressure. Yep.
That's a great point.
His work rate, phenomenal. I loved when he lost his mind with the referee. I loved that fired upness. Okay, we were in a good spot at that stage. But I'm like, the referee needed to hear on that, and Odegaard went berserk with him. And I like to see that occasionally. Yeah, we did seem to do this thing of dropping a player into the back line, whether it was him, or whether it was Rice or Partey, and we wanted kind of that forehand. And like there was some interesting analysis on the Twitters that because they had their press narrow with their midfielders pulled in, or sorry, with their midfielders kind of part of the shield, then by pulling our guys into the back line, we pulled a midfielder with it, and we had 3-4 that we could play around the edges. So I think that was a necessary thing to get around the Man City press, and that's why he was coming so deep, very much by plan. Of course, it meant he wasn't up the pitch when we needed him, but yeah, he wasn't. Look, he's not flowing yet. Our attack isn't flowing. And when he's not flowing, and you don't have Saka, guess what? We're a little light in the maintaining the pressure, the flow, we couldn't really stay in the attacking third until we got our confidence, until we got our flow much later on in the game. So, you know, I would have lived with a scrappy 1-0 or a scrappy 2-1. I didn't think this was going to be a high quality game. But by the time we got flowing in the second half, there's so much to love about our play.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. So what we're going to do, probably not Monday. So we'll probably have a live stream for deadline day. We'll do a main pod tomorrow, I assume, but we got to be a little careful because doing a main, well, maybe what we'll do is a main pod tomorrow on Monday, and we will probably do something for deadline day. But what I'm going to try to do Tuesday, we have this new platform where we can put video of the game on the screen and draw little circles and arrows and X's and O's on it, and Clive can illustrate it and walk through the tactical battle that was played. So I think on Tuesday we're going to do a technical video breakdown of the game, and that's one where you can actually participate. We can bring you on stage to give your thoughts. We tried out that platform a couple weeks ago. It went real well, so we're going to launch that again, and then you'll be able to watch the replay or listen to it after if you can't catch that. So that'll be on Patreon on Tuesday, I think. We just got to see what happens with deadline day. So, all right, Paul, on to Declan Rice. And this is a very interesting Declan Rice game because I was watching him very closely. He did very, very little on the ball initially, but he was very tactically important to shutting down those lanes behind the midfield and in front of the defense that City are so good at exploiting. And he put in a lot of hard yards to earn us the right to play the game. And oh, by the way, when the press, which was really our primary access to chances here, was turned up, he was the guy. And for the opening goal, Declan Rice playing the ball first time to Kai is the key. What have I been saying this whole season? When we win the ball high up the pitch, we don't convert it to good enough chances because we dawdle or we wall pass or we go back to defenders. Leo gets his foot in. Rice gets the ball, and what does he do? First time, bang, right to Kai. He knows Kai is there. That is left 8 play. That is true attacking midfielder play, and that creates the first goal, and then he went on to get even better in the second half. So I thought this was an out-of-this-world Rice performance, and without that first-time ball, we don't get that 1-0 lead, which sets us off for the win, you know?
Yeah, he's all over the place. His cover, he's at his full powers again. I think it's a very dominant midfield performance off the ball, and his pressure and turnovers and getting his foot in on, to disrupt their build up through midfield. And like, as you say, as the game goes on, as we kind of get it by the scruff of the neck, you start to see him playing a little bit more, but really his job is to make sure nothing passes, and he's everywhere all the time. Big game, big presence. And I think, look, why did Mikel go in big for him? Because he has that big presence in big games. And this was one of them.
Yeah. And I do just want to say that, like, I think Declan Rice has the ability to play anywhere on the pitch and influence a game. His intelligence and his athleticism is special. That first time ball for the goal, that's the little extra piece of being an attacking midfielder, right, Paul? It's the not having to think, oh, what do I do here at the top of the box when we recovered? It's just knowing instantly how to play the 1-2. And as someone in the chat called out intelligently, he also plays a killer hooking line drive, big switch to Ethan so that we can get that, that 5th goal. And we will come to Ethan.
It's the width of the pitch, basically. And like, Nuaneri's in space. He sees it. It's obvious what he should do. Get the ball to Ethan. And yeah, it's a great switch. Yeah. I mean, he delivers a good cross, let's be honest.
And one thing, I see why we play same side. I'll just say this really quickly. This is more of a main pod comment. But City switched a lot, and they were big looping switches, and we didn't really struggle to recover our shape, right? Like, switches only work if they're fired in like he did there, but that's hard to do. He did it. It's absolutely brilliant. And Declan Rice is going strength to strength. All right, we're into the attacking three. By the way, if you missed it, you can rewind. We did our headlines, which were the big ebullient celebrations. We have one mystery section at the end that's going to come, one mystery section. We're going to do a tiny little section at the end on transfers too, but we're going player by player. We're nearly through it. So the next player up is Gabriel Martinelli playing off the right. And I thought really, really important. Look, we know that Gvardiol is a big part of how City attack. We knew that covering back was going to be important. I think he had some good counterattacking opportunities. he's never going to look totally natural on the right. It's not a 10 out of 10 performance on the right, but I thought it was really, really solid. One of his better ones.
It was a game that leaned into his strengths. And like, I did have my concerns as the game started and progressed. Like, he was going to get his moments because City are so dominant with possession. Who do you want streaking up the pitch? Martinelli. And he has there's the Havertz goal where he lays it onto him, and I'm like, do you go for it? He kind of made his choice, and his choice was to lean into Havertz overlap. Okay, good choice. And then the ball was a little short, but maybe it was super smart in that it was where Havertz wanted because he's a left footer. And so that was a big moment in the game where things paid off. I did think he was a little, he's not the best on the ball player. And from the right-hand side, what you're really getting is the runs rather than the Bukayo Saka kind of hold up technical security, build our platform from here. You can't do that with Martinelli. So I think this definitely a game that suited him to attack off the right, make his runs, piercing runs, his defensive work, his contribution. I think that's why he was basically kept on for the 80 plus minutes till the game was safe. His work rate phenomenal. So it was a game that lent into his strengths, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And ultimately, like, there's a difference between what I want Martinelli to be in my wildest dreams and what he is. I accept that. But I think that this was the kind of performance we need for the moment that we had. And I think it was the right tactical decision. And by the way, the big decision again for Arteta, do I go with Ethan or do I go with Martinelli? Ethan had played 90 minutes midweek. I think for the running we needed, this was right. And thanks to Red 5905, £1 for each goal, because fuck City. Sorry, Elliot, but you have to read all of this. Fair enough. Happy to do it. And thank you for that. Okay. By the way, about 15,500 of you watching across different platforms. And all I can say is we fucking love you. We love you for being here. Arsenal 5, City 1. What a day. Clive's bit will be into the recording, so you'll have that in a moment. We'll get Tim's thoughts as well. We're going to do a tiny bit on transfers at the end here, but we got to finish our player by player section. And Paul, Kai Havertz. So this is a tough section because let's just get this out of the way. That is a very bad miss. Now, the funny thing is I saw a lot of comments of people saying, this is why we need Ollie Watkins. And like, I don't know if you've seen the video, but Ollie Watkins missed virtually the same position, same chance, except slightly easier. No one blocking his path in our game at Villa, right? And then he missed a header that was a sitter. My point isn't that Ollie Watkins wouldn't be a great addition. I think he would, and I think he's the talented striker we need. Players miss chances. I think there's something interesting here, and I want to get your take on this. Kai gets that ball from Declan Rice for the first goal, and he's in one-on-one with the keeper. And he wants to give that to Odegaard, and it's the right choice, and he gets a good assist, and it's a good goal. I think there's just a tiny little bit of me that says if Kai's got a chance to pass in the box, he's going to be pretty happy with that, not to have to take it on. The miss is bad. We'll come to the positives of his contribution. We'll come to the positives. But the thing I don't like about the miss more than anything is just this is going to sound dumb. It is dumb, but I'm going to say it. It's the worst time for you to miss like that, Kai, because it's the day before the window closes and everyone thinks we need a striker. And if you just put that in the corner and then you score the next one later, everybody takes a deep breath. So I'm wondering what you think about the fact that he bobbles a pass to Odegaard when he's 1v1 with the keeper, when he misses the target free. We'll get to the positives of his performance, but I'm curious what you think of the part that had people understandably pretty anxious.
Yeah, totally get it. There is a photo. Football's hard, right? There's a photo they show you where you're behind. You kind of see what Havertz sees, and the goal is not entirely at his mercy, or like it just depends where you're standing. Obviously, a striker gets that there, or Mo Salah gets that there. Either likes his angle, and look, he's got plenty of goal to hit at, or he makes a little more of an angle. Because he's going with his left foot and the goalkeeper kind of knows which side he should go, the goalkeeper goes to the goalkeeper's right. So there isn't a huge amount.
I got to stop you. Great comment from Aaron. I think you did it intentionally to keep pressure on the Cronkies, no? Fair play, man. In a time of tinfoil hat takes all over the world, that's a good one, and I can subscribe to it. Go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah. So it's it was a long way of me saying football's hard, but he absolutely needs to bury that. Here's what I think. We should be banned from giving him a stock falling ever. Not because he never deserves one, but because the one thing Kai Havertz needs is love. And the more love you give him, the better he will play. He'll have
these. Has spoken to that, by the way, and said very much the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you just sense it with the guy. If you look, it's not to deny whatever, to deny he's a little off or that he needs more, but there's no point. Give the guy, love him more when he's struggling, and he pays off. And look, it was a big moment, big goal for him. And in the trajectory of how this club is feeling about itself, really well taken. Love the player. It's like water in a plant. Love Kai Havertz, and he will pay off. We've seen much better Kai Havertz than this in terms of in front of goal and finishing. Love the player. It'll pay off. We're banned from giving him a stock falling ever.
Yeah. And to be fair, and by the way, just crossed 16,000 across platforms watching. So thanks to everybody. It's a very cool thing to get everybody together like this and just have some fun at City's expense and celebrate it. And Clive's section is recorded. There's about 15 minutes of Clive just by himself from the Emirates halftime, full time. That's going to be in the recorded section. I think, look, you can see, for anybody who says confidence isn't a thing or emotions don't matter, look how he takes his goal. That's as confident a strike as you will see. It's a really weird day when your striker has a goal and an assist and 4 shots from inside the box and comes away with people frustrated. Now, I get why they're frustrated, but I've always said this, so I'll try to be consistent. If my striker has 4 shots, big chances, is in the box, is creating chances, and scores a goal and gets an assist, I'm going to call that a good game. I just am. And he should take that chance. I'll tell you something people aren't going to want to hear. And again, I've been very vocal. I want us to sign Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins leads the league in big chances missed this season. Are we going to be forgiving when he misses a big chance for us? Because he will. And this, none of this is to say Havertz is the clinical striker that we need. But when you look at all of the things he does in totality, if Bukayo Saka was playing, if we had Bukayo Saka, do we think Kai's flaws would stand out as much? I think they stand out because we're short the superstar in the front 3. We have a superstar in the front 3. He's just not here right now. If we had superstar wingers, I think we would admire Kai all the more. None of it excuses what is a bad miss, but I am here to tell you that I think Kai Havertz is a very effective player that does a lot of good things for us if we also go and get maybe one more really good striker. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. I think there's a bit of exacerbation of his struggles because Odegaard's a little sloppy at the moment. Martinelli is not a great on the ball, clinical player. So there's Rice isn't the most technically intricate. So you got a lot of players in the front half of our pitch who are almost like momentum, power, speed players, and we need one. We're missing a player. And my one call when we were struggling in this is I understand why we started Martinelli, but man, you could use an Ethan Nwaneri there to kind of add a little more control and touch in this game. We're missing one player. Obviously, that player is Saka, but it needs to be an analog where we have more control. Trossard's he's pretty darn good in terms of technical control, but he doesn't have the physical breakaway capabilities. We were missing one player, and I think it puts a lot of burden on players who are not quite in their best moments for us, and is putting a lot of pressure on Havertz. So his spills, his misses, puts a spotlight on him. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one more starter left. We're going to do just one of the subs today, but the starter we have left is Leo, and I had Leo as a candidate for a man of the match type performance. Yeah. He has upped his work rate. I think he's doing more of the stuff that one of the reasons we say you got to start Martinelli over Leo was the work defensively and the off the ball stuff. He wins the ball in the press to get us the first goal. He beats players. He turns them inside out. He gets good crosses in. He wins his fouls in dangerous areas, and he's all over the pitch. He drops deep. Like, he's found a wellspring of energy. He's definitely giving his all to the cause. I'm a big fan of what he's doing for us right now. I thought he was great today.
He's embraced the physicality that's required for the team. I don't think he arrived with that. He's embraced the two-way play. He's cut out the hospital pass. He always had, hang on, I haven't given my hospital pass yet, and it's the 73rd minute. Let me give it now. So he's really grown into the seriousness of what happens when we don't have the ball. I'm like, why are we one of the best teams in the world when we're one of the best teams in the world? It's because of what we do without the ball. But in this game, he was the guy who gave them a lot to think about from the wings in terms of twist and turning, putting in probing balls. I thought that was where the sizzle was coming from. I thought he had a really good two-way game. Yeah, he was a candidate for stock rising if there hadn't been 3 or 4, and 1 or 2 in particular who were head and shoulders above.
Okay, let's just do one more, and then we'll get to 2 little bonus sections. The one more is Ethan Nwaneri. And like, look, I think Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan must have this thing where they're like, why are they talking about that guy? I'm the star. No, why are you talking about? And I'm sure they're buddies, obviously. I'm kidding. But like, it is this rare scenario where everybody's desperate to see more of Ethan. And then MLS rolls out a man of the match performance where he scores a fantastic goal from his fullback position. And Ethan's sitting there on the bench going, I can't be having that. I'll get on for 3 minutes. And so it's so funny. If you watch, I watched that goal develop because I'm watching Ethan. He's waving his arms from the absolute far side of the pitch saying, I'm open. And I'm like, mate, it's 90+3. You're waving your arms. We're on the left side. What are you doing? Rice decides to pick him out. He had one thing in mind. Make sure I get a piece of the headlines of this game too. And just like nothing, when he celebrated, I was like, oh, he must have been offside with the whistle blew because he didn't care. This is a guy who expects to do this. And I'll tell you something, be very careful about overanalyzing performances in football. Be very careful because all that matters is the score. And Ethan is the kind of player who can have a 5 out of 10 for a lot of the game, beat a man and put it in the corner. And it's a 10 out of 10. He wins you games. He has that stardust that special players have where they can have the ability to flit in and out of a game, but have a moment or two that decides it. And Paul, he just reminded us, hey, this is Miles' day, but don't forget, I'm here. That's 7 goals for the 17-year-old on the season.
It's fantastic that the two of those lads have each other in this team where both of them kind of know they're going to play a role. One of them may start, usually Miles Lewis-Skelly, because he's actually the most secure young player we can bring into the team, the one that doesn't increase the risk for our team. But to that, Ethan's very serious without the ball. And that's I think that's the thing we've done really well with him. He's been introduced piece by piece to know the role, to know that he has responsibilities, that the part of the game he really needs to work on is what happens when we don't have the ball or when somebody else has the ball and you need to make the move to make space for him. But when the ball comes out to him in this, he knows exactly what he's going to do. He takes the touch inside, puts his head down, drops the shoulder, drives it with the Nwaneri finish. The other thing that caught my eye is he's done this over a couple of games. He shapes a cross that nobody else shapes. He has like a heat-seeking missile that he puts into the box where he just and Saka gives us the deadly cross from that side. So that's something else Nwaneri can replicate. And he had one in this game where I'm like, nobody really shapes a cross like that. Really dangerous, undefendable. If he gets it spot on, he'll carve open defenses. It was almost a perfect cross. He comes on. I thought it was a token gesture to get him on the pitch, wasted a little time. Not so. Nwaneri knows that give him a look, he's going to take a chance. And like his finishing rate, be interesting to go and look at the stats on his finishing, his goals versus XG, his execution.
Yep.
This guy has quality finishing on his boots. I wonder how much more we're going to see him starting as opposed to coming on from here on in, because just feels he's ready. He could have started this game. I see why we went with Martinelli. I think we would have been better with Nwaneri because that was the one thing we were missing. We didn't have that. He's so good at holding onto the ball, not spilling it cheaply, playing it back and forth with Odegaard and Timber. they're still learning each other. But I could see this game, if it hadn't gone quite as sweetly, I would have thought the player we were missing was Nwaneri in that spot. Not for the goals, but for that Saka control of play, being able to rest in their attacking third instead of ending up back in our defending third.
Yeah, well, let's do a final 2 quick sections here. I don't think we need to go to any of the other subs. A masterful day, a celebratory day, sweet revenge against Michael Oliver, who wanted Miles Lewis-Skelly out of this game. Sweet revenge on Erling Haaland, who is currently staying as humble as possible. Someone's got to be on Pep Guardiola face watch to make sure he doesn't scratch it off, claw off his own face. And it's just a fun, special day. Midweek game, Newcastle, and then off to Dubai to start the title charge. Let's do some deadline day predictions really quick, Paul. I think Matisse Tell is supposedly potentially close to United. Ollie Watkins, it feels late in the day. Those are the 2 names, the only 2 names really, that feel like they're circulating. And I'm wondering if you have just any quick predictions on what might happen.
I don't really. My guess would be that it doesn't quite come off and we get an Isaac. That may not make people happy. I was certainly more optimistic a few days ago. But
United insiders, by the way, saying Tell is off. So Tell United is off.
Yeah. But it just doesn't feel like, it seems like when we've got players recently, when the time came, it felt like it was happening, right? There were several days of build-up of, we kind of tip our hands. You see it's coming, and it's just, there's a bit of a scramble to get it sorted out at the end. I don't know that either one of these feel like it's coming in our direction. The fact that Tell wasn't clearly pushing for Arsenal, we like our players to want us. Now, maybe we'll hear more story that actually the reason United's off is because Tell really wanted it. But I haven't seen the kind of reporting that feels like this guy's coming our way. And although there's 2 chances, so you think, 50-50, I don't think either of them's at the 50-50 stage. So we might just miss out.
Yeah, I would say that Watkins could still happen. If anything happens, I think that's it. Watkins is an Arsenal fan. Villa have gone for a lot of attacking talent in this window. They are probably not going to make top 4 this season. They have a 96% wages to turnover ratio. That's a way to get wages off the books. Selling Duran generates fees, but it doesn't get wages off the books, which they need to do. He's signed up with them till 2028. I think that's one that could still happen. I don't know how sold we are on him, but I think it could happen. My problem with Tell is maybe you can get Tell in. Do I think Matisse Tell is ready to influence our season this season alone for Tell with no obligation to buy? I think anytime you can collect young talent for the long term, you do it. But alone for what is he, 18, 19-year-old who has hardly played in the Bundesliga, is now going to come to the Premier League and make a difference in our season. That I find a little harder. I find that a little harder to swallow. But I will say I love any player, including Matisse Tell, who recognizes how shit Spurs are. So I'll give him that. All right, we've got one last quick section to do. Paul, it's becoming a bit of a crisis. Can Erik ten Hag save Manchester United? He's available. He currently is without a job. Can he come in and replace Ruben Amorim and save Manchester United?
Look, you're the guy with the read on the United vibes. I always overestimate them. I thought Amorim was going to be pretty good.
Nope.
I like the cut of his jib. And once more, I'm wrong. Like every time I'm like, oh God, maybe United are about to start. Now, I don't think they have the squad and the players in the mix, but I just didn't think they could keep achieving these levels, but they dig deep and they keep achieving these levels. Yeah, they're a funny team. Who would have thought they could be this amusing, this entertaining for so long? The great entertainers.
I honestly think Erik ten Hag is a better coach than Ruben Amorim. First of all, if you are in trouble and you have spent a lot of money and you've got a squad with a lot of money invested, do not hire a back 5 manager. They just signed a wing back this window already who, let's face it, none of us had ever heard of. Dorgu? Is his name Dorgu, or is that a character from the latest Star Wars?
I'll be honest, I still haven't heard of him.
I still haven't heard from Lecce, maybe, because that's going to fix it. But like they just lost at home deservedly, 2-0, got beat on XG and everything by Crystal Palace. And that's the second season in a row that's happened, I believe. And it's not even news at this point. It's not even like they flat stink. Xerxes and Højlund came on. They're two big striker signings in 2 windows who now neither of them start. They came on and Xerxes proceeds to get the ball on the counter and pass it straight out for a throw in. I've never seen anything like it. This is a bad, bad team. Lisandro Martinez, he goes down with what looks like a very, very serious injury. I will not make any comments on it, but I will simply say, Paul, as a final point on this stream, like, you just beat City 5-1. You just saw United lose 2-0 at home to Palace to just sink further in the table. They stink. We're good. Spurs are crap. Is it possible that our fan base needs to take a deep breath and have a moment of joy? Because this is, despite the title race situation, and I get it, you wore a trophy. You know what? Sometimes football is about, can you enjoy the moment? And I am enjoying the absolute crap out of this moment right now.
I'm enjoying the absolute snot out of it. Mm-hmm. This is a great day. We enjoy it. There's great moments. It'll be one of those days you want to be on social media, seeing all the angles, the takes, the responses, match of the day. Look, and more significantly, even to the other side of it, for those who want more from this season, this is the kind of game that you go, okay, let's go for it. Like it's been on our horizon for a while, the City game. And it's been in our mindset for a while. Well, you know, we grew into it. We grew past it. By the end of the game, we were tearing them apart. The vibes in the dressing room will be immense. And now we look to the run in for the season. And if Liverpool can just slip up, right? Drop 3 points, Liverpool, and we start hitting our stride, it starts to get really interesting. So look, whether we win it or we come second, the second better be close. We better be breathing down their neck. That's what we need to do to close out this season so that we go strong into the summer and we come for them next season. But this season's still alive and kicking.
Nearly got my 10 goals against City. If you combine the men and the women, 9 goals today. Huge shout out to the women, by the way, who beat City in a critical game for Champions League qualification for them. So kudos to them and congrats to them. Obviously a huge win for the men. I want to send love to the Disco Boys, the crazy humans of Matchday Chat, who I spend my time being crazy with a lot of times during the day in our Discord. I want to send love to all of you who spent some time with us today after a big win to celebrate and be part of this community and be together and recognize that, you know what? Like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And so it was a pleasure to make this free for everyone today. For the patrons who tolerated that, thank you. Because, you know, we appreciate what you do for us. We'll do an episode every single day this week, just as we try to most weeks. We'll do the video tactics session with Clive. Clive's audio will be in the recording, which will stay for the patrons. But for everyone who got to join us for this, it means the world to celebrate a moment like this together. Really enjoy it. Really soak it up. We don't get a lot of time because the fixtures just come thick and fast. Thankfully, we'll have some time after the Newcastle game to just take a breath and maybe enjoy some of the high moments we've had in a season that hasn't always been just high moments. So happy. Hale End in the ascendancy, Arsenal in the ascendancy, and a day to celebrate. So love to everybody. Paul, love you, man.
Woohoo! You too.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. We absolutely love you. Probably main pod tomorrow, probably stuff related to the deadline tomorrow as well. And then the tactics video with Clive on Tuesday as well. And Clive will be on the pod tomorrow. So as will Tim, and I'm sure we could talk about the women as well. So as I've said now a number of times, maybe so many times that it's getting a little uncomfortable. And I'm sorry if it's making you uncomfortable. We love you. Okay. That's out of the way.
I think
and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Newcastle 9.